My mom installed spyware on my phone. She regretted it when I gave her nothing to worry about. After my mom caught my dad texting underage girls on Telegram, she bought me a brand new iPhone. A day later, I noticed its screen kept lighting up randomly. Turns out she'd downloaded a spy app that let her see everything. Texts, camera roll, location, when I turned my screen on. That same day, she cornered me in the kitchen, holding her own phone like a weapon. "Why did you tell Jess you were sad? You have nothing to be depressed about." She actually read my text out loud, word for word, in this mocking voice. Said I was seeking attention just like Dad. I smiled, this really calm smile that made her take a few steps back. You know what? You're right. I have nothing to hide. The next morning, I started texting her everything. And I mean everything. Walking to kitchen, opening the fridge, choosing milk, pouring milk. My phone became a minute-by-minute diary. Breathing, blinking, thinking about breakfast. At first, she loved it. Started bragging to her divorced friends during wine nights. Unlike my ex, I know exactly what's happening. No secrets in this house. But by day 3, her phone was buzzing nonstop. Hundreds of notifications from yours truly. And after just a week, she was already losing it. "Stop texting so much!" she screamed over dinner. I pretended to look confused. "But you said no secrets?" "I'm following your rules perfectly." She couldn't complain, because I was doing exactly what she'd asked for. I had no idea how much it would backfire. Because the more I played with her, the more addicted she became to my micro-updates. If I forgot to text for 30 minutes and I wasn't in class, she'd call the school asking a teacher to check up on me. One night, she actually called the cops because my location showed me sitting still for too long at a park bench without texting her about what type of tree I was sitting beside. I thought she was trying to teach me a lesson. But when I got home that night, she grabbed my shoulders with a manic look in her eye, repeating something about how silence means secrets, and Daddy went quiet when he was texting her. For 2 weeks, things got worse. She wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping, just watching her screen. She started sleeping outside my door. I'd hear her breathing, waiting for me to make a sound. Then one day, I came home and every door in our house was gone. I walked through the house in a daze, my heart pounding harder with each missing frame. Security cameras were strategically placed in every corner, their red lights blinking like eyes. She had even placed 2 above my bed, angled directly at my pillow. When I finally found her, she was sitting silently in the living room, watching the security camera footage. When she looked up at me, her eyes were bright with this terrifying joy. "Now we can be close," she said, spreading her arms wide. "No barriers, no secrets, just like before Daddy destroyed us." Well, if she wanted a show, I'd give her one. I decided to pretend I was losing my mind, give her the most disturbing footage possible. I started talking to the cameras like they were my friends. "Good morning, camera 3. Yes, I see you too, camera 4. I'd sit in corners rocking back and forth for hours, whispering nonsense. Sometimes I'd just stare directly into one camera without blinking until my eyes watered. I kept it up for weeks, getting more disturbing each day. Eating with my hands, sleeping on the floor, drawing invisible patterns on the walls. I don't know what I wanted her to do. I just knew it felt good to have some sort of control over the situation. Then one morning, I woke up and something felt wrong. My head was cold, and the entire room smelled like bleach mixed with something chemical and wrong. I touched it and felt skin where hair should be. I immediately ran to the bathroom mirror and nearly screamed. I was completely bald. Not a single hair left. That's when she walked in behind me, and I saw her reflection in the mirror. On her head was a wig. I touched it while adrenaline pumped through my body. "Mom, is this my hair?" She nodded enthusiastically and smiled. "Now you can't hide anything from me," she whispered, running her fingers through my hair, her wig. Even your thoughts were under that hair. Her eyes were empty. Not Mom's eyes anymore. Something else looking out through her face. She pulled out electric clippers, still humming, still warm. "Your eyebrows are next," she said softly. "Then we'll see what you're really thinking." And what she did next made me realize I'd never escape. I woke up on the bathroom floor where I passed out after she left, my hand automatically reaching for my head and finding only smooth skin where my hair used to be. The cold tile pressed against my cheek, and the chemical smell still hung in the air, making my stomach turn. The wig she made from my own hair sat on the counter like a trophy, the strands I grew for years now belonging to her. I pushed myself up and my arms shook from lying in the same position for hours. My phone buzzed with a text from her asking why I wasn't responding, and I realized I had maybe 30 seconds before she came to check on me. I grabbed my phone and typed out that I was in the bathroom, then splashed cold water on my face to wake up fully. Looking in the mirror felt wrong because the person staring back didn't look like me anymore. Just a scared bald kid who needed to survive long enough to get away from her. I knew with absolute certainty that I couldn't keep living like this, that something had to change, or she would take everything from me piece by piece until there was nothing left. I forced myself to move through my morning routine while she watched from the doorway, her phone in her hand tracking every notification I sent. I turned on the faucet and texted her that I was washing my face, then actually washed my face while she nodded like I was doing something impressive. Brushing my teeth took 3 separate texts, because she wanted to know which toothpaste I chose and how long I brushed each section. My clothes options were limited because she had hidden most of my hoodies and anything with pockets deep enough to hide things in, so I texted her about choosing between a blue shirt and a gray one. She responded immediately telling me to wear the gray one because blue made me look sneaky, whatever that meant. I pulled on jeans and socks while typing out each action, my fingers moving automatically now after weeks of this routine. She smiled at me from the doorway like we were sharing a nice mother-daughter moment instead of her watching my every move through cameras and texts. I grabbed my backpack and she followed me downstairs, her eyes never leaving me as I poured cereal and texted her about the milk being cold. At the school, I kept my head down and started testing the limits of her surveillance by briefly switching my phone to airplane mode during passing period. My hands sweated as I watched the little airplane icon appear at the top of my screen, knowing she could see my location freeze on her end. I walked from English to history and counted the seconds, wondering how long it would take her to notice. 30 seconds passed, then 60, and I started to think maybe the system had a delay that I could use. But then my phone buzzed back online and her frantic texts came flooding in one after another, asking where I was and why I went dark and if I was hiding something from her. I counted them as they appeared. 8 texts in the span of maybe 10 seconds, and I noted that her response time was under 90 seconds from the moment I went offline. That information felt important somehow. Like knowing exactly how tight the leash was would help me figure out how to slip it. I texted back that my phone glitched and she responded with a long message about how I better not be lying to her like Dad lied. During lunch, I locked myself in a bathroom stall and used my phone's front camera to take photos of my shaved head from multiple angles, making sure the timestamps were visible in the corner. My hands shook as I held the phone up and captured the uneven patches where she had pressed too hard with the clippers, the small cuts that were still healing, the complete absence of hair that made me look sick. I took 12 photos total, switching between front and back views, making sure the bathroom tiles were visible in the background, so it was clear where I was. Each photo felt like evidence, like proof that this wasn't normal, and that I wasn't crazy for thinking something was seriously wrong. I forced my hands steady for the last few shots because I knew this might be the only proof I would get if she decided to tell people I did this to myself. The timestamp read 12:47 p.m. on November 19th, and I made myself memorize that number in case the photos got deleted somehow. Then I texted Mom that I was using the bathroom, and she responded asking why it was taking so long. So I flushed the toilet and washed my hands while my phone sat on the sink counter recording everything. I created a new text thread with Jess using innocent-looking messages about homework, typing out a question about what chapters we were supposed to read for history. She responded right away asking if I was okay, and I knew I had to be careful because Mom was definitely reading every word. So I typed back something about needing help with math too, and then added that I might need the math notes later if things got confusing. We went back and forth about assignments for a few minutes, and then I sent her a message saying I really hoped I wouldn't need those math notes, but it was good to know she had them. She responded with a heart emoji, and I felt slightly less alone for the first time in days, knowing that someone outside this nightmare understood what I was really saying. The code was simple. I need the math notes meant I was in immediate danger, and she would know to call someone or do something to help. I saved the thread and made sure it looked totally normal in case Mom went through my entire phone later. After school, I approached my English teacher, Miss Larkin, to ask about makeup work, hoping she would notice my shaved head and ask questions. She was erasing the board when I walked up, and when she turned around, her eyes went straight to my head, and her expression changed. She asked what happened, and I opened my mouth to tell her everything, but then I remembered that Mom had probably already called the school with her version of events. I froze up completely, my brain going blank as I tried to figure out what to say that wouldn't make things worse. Miss Larkin looked concerned and touched my shoulder gently, asking again if I was okay and if someone had hurt me. But I just shook my head and mumbled something about the makeup work for the days I missed, and she handed me a packet with a sad look on her face. I knew she wanted to help but didn't know how, and I wanted to scream the truth, but my throat felt closed up. As I walked away, I heard her pick up her desk phone, and I wondered if she was calling someone, maybe the counselor or the office. But then Mom appeared at the end of the hallway walking toward me, and I knew any chance to talk was gone. That night, I used the school library computer to research the Spy app on my phone, learning that it had device administrator privileges that prevented me from uninstalling it. The search results showed me exactly how invasive the app was, tracking not just my texts and location, but also my keystrokes, my photos, even when I turned my screen on and off. I read through forum posts from other people trying to remove similar apps, and every single one said the same thing: you can't delete it without factory resetting the phone, and even then the person monitoring you would know immediately. I took screenshots of the permissions page showing all the access the app had, then emailed them to myself using a new account I created with a password Mom would never guess. The library was almost empty and the librarian wasn't paying attention, so I spent 20 minutes documenting everything I found about the app and how it worked. I learned that it uploaded data every 15 minutes to a cloud server, which meant Mom was probably reviewing everything I did in batches, rather than watching live constantly. That small detail felt important, like maybe there were gaps I could use if I timed things right. Sleep became almost impossible because Mom had started sleeping in the hallway right outside my doorless room, and I could hear her breathing and shifting position all night. Every time I started to drift off, her weight would creak on the floorboards, or she would cough and I would snap awake again, my heart pounding. I learned to lie perfectly still and breathe evenly even when I was wide awake, performing sleep like it was a survival skill that would keep her from coming in to check on me. My eyes stayed open in the dark, staring at the ceiling while I counted my breaths, making them slow and steady so she would think I was actually asleep. Sometimes she would whisper things I couldn't quite hear, or I would see her shadow move across the wall as she repositioned herself. The cameras above my bed recorded everything with their blinking red lights, and I wondered if she was watching the footage live on her phone while sitting right outside my room. By 3 in the morning, my whole body ached from staying so still, but I didn't dare move because any sound might bring her in here with questions about why I was awake. On the third night, she came in with the electric clippers again, saying it was time for my eyebrows, but I managed to talk her down by promising to text even more frequently. She stood at the foot of my bed holding the clippers, and I could hear them buzzing before she even turned them on, the sound making my skin crawl. I sat up and told her I would send her updates every 10 minutes instead of every 15, that I would text her about everything including my thoughts if she wanted. She considered this while the clippers hummed in her hand, her eyes looking past me at something I couldn't see. Then she agreed to wait, but kept the clippers on my nightstand as a reminder, setting them down carefully like they were precious. I spent the rest of the night staring at them, watching the silver blades catch the red glow from the camera lights, knowing that next time I might not be able to talk her out of it. My eyebrows felt like they were burning even though she hadn't touched them, and I kept reaching up to make sure they were still there. I discovered my phone's Shortcuts app could send automated texts at scheduled intervals, so I programmed it to send her updates every 15 minutes during my morning classes. The app let me create custom messages that would trigger automatically based on time, which meant I could set up a whole morning's worth of texts before school even started. I typed out boring updates about being in class, taking notes, listening to the teacher, walking to my locker, and scheduled them to send throughout the day. This bought me small windows of time where I wasn't actively typing and could focus on planning my next steps, maybe even talk to someone without her immediately knowing. I tested it during first period and watched my phone send a message on its own, while I sat there doing nothing, and Mom responded with a thumbs up like everything was normal. The automated text wouldn't fool her forever because eventually she would notice they were too regular and predictable, but for now it gave me just enough breathing room to think clearly. I added the shortcuts to my home screen disguised as a calculator app so she wouldn't find them if she ever got her hands on my phone. I slide the phone back under my pillow and open my eyes just enough to watch the shadows on the wall, making sure she doesn't move from her spot in the hallway. My automated text system sends another update about sleeping peacefully, and I hear her phone buzz softly outside my room. The next morning, I eat breakfast while she watches me from across the table, her eyes tracking every movement of my spoon from bowl to mouth. I text her that I'm eating cereal, chewing, swallowing, and she nods along with each notification like she's conducting an orchestra. At the school, I head straight to the library during study hall and log into one of the Chromebooks they keep on the charging cart. I open a private Google Doc and title it Timeline in plain text so it looks like a school assignment if anyone glances at my screen. My fingers shake a little as I start typing, but I force them steady because this is important. Door removal November 3rd, I write. Then cameras installed November 5th. Head shave November 18th. Clippers threat November 21st. I add details about the spy app installation, the bathroom monitor, her sleeping in the hallway, every single thing I can remember with exact dates. The bell rings before I finish, but I save it and log out, making sure to clear my browser history even though the school computers do that automatically. After school, I decide to test something. So instead of walking straight home, I take a detour to the convenience store 3 blocks past my usual route. I keep my phone in my pocket and walk at a normal pace, counting the minutes in my head while my automated texts keep sending her updates about walking home from the school. I make it inside the store and I'm looking at the candy aisle when my phone starts buzzing. 17 minutes, I note, which means her location alerts aren't instant and there's a delay in the system. She's calling now, her name flashing on my screen, and I answer on the 3rd ring. I tell her I stopped to buy gum, and she demands to know why I didn't text her about it first, her voice getting higher and tighter with each word. I apologize and promise to text before making any stops. Then I buy the gum I don't even want, and head home while she stays on the phone with me the entire walk. The next day, Jess catches me by the bike racks after school, and I can tell from her face that she has something for me. She pretends to adjust her backpack and slips something into my hand, and when I look down I see it's a phone, old and scratched but still working. No service but the camera works, she whispers, and I close my fist around it and nod. We don't hug or talk long because I know Mom is probably watching my location dot right now, but Jess squeezes my hand once and says the word lighthouse, and I squeeze back. I hide the phone in my jacket pocket and text Mom that I'm talking to Jess about homework. Then I say goodbye and head to the parking lot where she's waiting in the car. Walking through the halls the next morning feels like everyone is staring at my bald head, and I pull my hood up even though it's against dress code. I hear someone whisper behind me that I must be in chemo, and another voice says something about cancer, and I want to turn around and scream the truth at them. Instead, I just keep walking and banking all this rage for when I can actually use it, storing it up like fuel. During 4th period, the intercom crackles and asks me to come to the front office, and my stomach drops because Mom shouldn't be here yet. But when I get there, she's standing at the counter talking to the secretary, smiling and laughing like we're a normal family. She tells them she wants to observe my last period class because she's so involved in my education, and the secretary actually thinks this is sweet and writes her a visitor pass. I have to sit through 45 minutes of history class while Mom watches me from the back row, her eyes never leaving me even when I'm just taking notes. After class, Miss Larkin catches me at the door and asks quietly if I'm okay, and I can see she wants to help but doesn't know how. I lean in close and whisper that I didn't do this to myself, gesturing at my head, and her face changes. Then Mom appears in the doorway asking if everything is all right, and Mr. Larkin just nods and tells me to have a good day. The next morning, Jess finds me before first period and hands me a library book about photography, and when I open it later in the bathroom, there's her old phone tucked inside the pages. I hide it in my locker behind my winter coat where Mom will never think to look, and having a device she doesn't know about makes me feel like I found a weapon. All through chemistry, I'm planning how to use it without getting caught, thinking about angles and timing and where I can hide the footage. During lunch, I skip eating and go to the library computer instead, searching for information about protective orders and CPS reporting. I learn that teachers are mandated reporters, which means Miss A. Larkin has to report suspected abuse. But I also learn that the system moves slowly, and investigations can take weeks. I print everything out and fold the papers small enough to hide in my chemistry textbook, memorizing the important parts about what counts as evidence. That evening, Mom announces a new rule while I'm doing homework at the kitchen table. 8 minutes for showers starting now, she says, and you have to leave the door open so I can make sure you're safe. I feel my last piece of privacy crumbling away, but I just nod and say, okay, Mom. Later, she goes through my bathroom stuff, actually counting my tampons and checking how much soap is left in the bottle, writing it all down in a little notebook. Late that night, I wait until I hear her breathing go slow and steady in the hallway. Then I carefully reach under my pillowcase and pull out Jess's phone. I turn it on with the volume all the way down and the brightness as low as it will go. Then I angle it toward the doorway where Mom is sleeping on the floor. I press record and whisper to the camera about how she's been outside my room for 6 hours, how she monitors my bathroom time, how she counts my tampons. The red recording light glows softly in the dark, and somehow documenting everything makes me feel slightly less powerless, like I'm building something that might save me. Around 9 that night, my phone buzzes with Dad's contact photo lighting up the screen, and I stare at it for 3 rings before letting it go to voicemail. Talking to him would just give Mom more ammunition, and I need to stay focused on my own survival plan right now. Mom appears in the bathroom doorway 30 seconds later holding her phone, and I know she got the notification about the missed call through the Spy app. She hits play on the voicemail without asking, and Dad's voice fills the small space asking if I'm okay, and saying he's worried about me. Mom's face goes rigid and she plays it again, then a 3rd time, her breathing getting faster with each replay. She starts pacing the hallway outside the bathroom, ranting about how he destroyed our family, and has no right to check on me after what he did. Her voice gets louder and higher as she lists every way he betrayed us, and I just stand there dripping water on the floor, while she works herself into a frenzy. The rant goes on for over an hour, circling back to the same points about secrets and lies, and how she's the only one who really cares about keeping me safe. I text her that I'm going to bed and she finally stops talking, but I can hear her pacing in the hallway muttering to herself. Around midnight, I'm lying in bed staring at the camera lights when I hear her footsteps coming toward my doorway. She's holding the electric clippers and there's this manic determination in her eyes that makes my stomach drop. She tells me it's time for my eyebrows to go, and I actually say no out loud, my voice coming out stronger than I expected. She moves toward me anyway and I scramble backward on the bed, telling her to stop. When she reaches for my face, I shove her away harder than I mean to, and she stumbles backward into the doorframe. Her expression shifts from determined to shocked, and then something dangerous that I've never seen before. She starts yelling about how I'm violent and out of control, just like my father, and I yell back that she's the one who's lost it. Our screaming match echoes through the doorless house, and I'm dimly aware that neighbors might hear, but I'm too angry and scared to care anymore. She's advancing on me again with the clippers when there's a sharp knock on the front door that makes us both freeze. The knock comes again, louder and more official, and Mom's face goes pale. She drops the clippers on my bed and smooths her hair before walking to the front door. I follow her and see 2 police officers standing on our porch through the window. Mom takes a deep breath and opens the door with this completely different expression, concerned and slightly embarrassed. The older officer asks if everything is all right because they received a noise complaint from a neighbor. Mom transforms right in front of them into this worried parent dealing with a troubled teen. She explains that I've been acting out ever since my father's legal troubles started, and gestures for me to come closer. When I step into view, both officers' eyes go to my shaved head, and I see pity replace their initial concern. Mom tells them I did this to myself, and that she's been trying to get me help, but I keep refusing. She's so convincing that I almost believe her myself, and I realize how impossible it would be to explain the truth right now. The younger officer, a woman with kind eyes, asks me directly if I'm okay, and I want to scream no, but I just nod. She pulls out her card and writes something on the back before handing it to me, telling me I can call anytime. I read the name printed on the front, Officer Melissa Larkin. I memorize it and tuck the card into my pocket, thinking I might need it later. The officers tell Mom they have to file a report about the noise complaint, and she nods understandingly, playing the exhausted single mother perfectly. After they leave, she turns to me with this triumphant look and says that now there's a record of my behavior problems. I go back to my room and retrieve the hidden phone to record a whispered account of what just happened, including Officer Larkin's name. The next morning, I drag myself to the school running on maybe 2 hours of sleep, and halfway through second period, the intercom crackles asking me to report to the counseling office. I've never been called there before, and my stomach twists as I gather my stuff. The counselor's office is tucked in a quiet corner near the library, and when I knock, a woman opens the door introducing herself as Paisley Henderson. She has short dark hair and wire-rimmed glasses, and something about her careful, gentle way of speaking immediately tells me someone filed a report. She asks me to sit down and offers me water before settling into her chair across from me. Her questions are specific and careful, asking about my appearance change and my home environment without directly accusing anyone. I can tell she's been trained in this, using language that won't make me defensive or shut down. She asks if I feel safe at home, and I hesitate too long before answering yes. That hesitation tells her everything, and I see her make a small note on her pad. We talk for 20 minutes, and I give her just enough truth to keep her concerned, but not enough to trigger immediate action because I'm not ready yet. When she walks me back to class, she squeezes my shoulder and tells me her door is always open. By lunch, Mom has somehow found out about the counselor meeting, and my phone explodes with texts demanding to know what I said. Before I can figure out how to respond, the school secretary's voice comes over the intercom asking Paisley to check her voicemail. I'm in the cafeteria when I see Paisley walking past, and our eyes meet for just a second. Later that afternoon, I get called back to her office, and her expression has changed from concerned to frustrated. She tells me she got a voicemail from my mother explaining that I've been cutting myself and lying for attention just like my father. I watch Paisley's face as she chooses her words carefully, telling me that she has to take all reports seriously, but that she's also trained to recognize when something doesn't add up. She tells me that CPS will be doing a home visit within the next few days, and that I should be honest with them about what's happening. She looks apologetic as she explains that the system has procedures and protocols that move slowly, that her hands are tied by mandatory reporting requirements and investigation timelines. I thank her and leave feeling both hopeful that someone is paying attention, and terrified that it won't be fast enough. That evening, Mom is in full preparation mode for the CPS visit, taking down some of the more obvious cameras and hiding the baby monitor. She rehearses her story about my mental health crisis out loud, pacing the living room and adjusting details. Then she makes me practice with her, coaching me on exactly what to say about how concerned she is and how she's trying to get me help. I play along perfectly while mentally recording every single word for the hidden phone later. She tells me to emphasize that Dad's legal problems have been really hard on me, and that I've been acting out for attention. The next morning before homeroom, Jess corners me by my locker and tells me I need to get bolder about collecting evidence. She explains that the system won't help unless I give them something they absolutely can't ignore. She shows me how to upload videos from the hidden phone to a cloud account she set up using a fake email address that Mom can't trace. She also loans me a portable charger that I can hide in my backpack so the phone doesn't die at crucial moments. During study hall, I pull out a piece of notebook paper and write out a detailed note with timestamps of every camera location, the exact date she removed the doors, and a description of the shaving incident. I include the bathroom baby monitor and her sleeping in the hallway, and the eyebrow threat from last night. I seal it in an envelope, and between classes, I slip it to Paisley with a whispered request that she not open it until after the CPS visit. She looks at the envelope for a long moment, then nods once and tucks it into her jacket pocket without asking questions. That night, Mom installs a baby monitor in the bathroom, angling it toward the shower stall. I stare at it and realize there is literally no space left in this house where I'm not being watched. Every corner has eyes now. I wait until the shower is running to create cover noise, then pull out the hidden phone and whisper into it about the new camera, describing its exact location and angle. My voice is barely audible over the water, but the recording picks it up and I feel slightly less alone, knowing that somewhere in a cloud account, there's proof of everything she's doing to me. Requested Reads is on Spotify now. Check out link in the description or comments. The next morning, I wake up exhausted, but my brain is working overtime on a new plan. I spend first period programming my phone's automation app to send Mom texts every 15 minutes during lunch. Generic stuff like eating sandwich, and talking to friends, and drinking water. By the time lunch rolls around, I've got 20 minutes of automated coverage that will make her think I'm in the cafeteria when I'm actually somewhere else. I walk straight to the counseling office and knock on Paisley's door. She looks up from her desk and waves me in, closing the door behind me even though I know Mom will see my location sitting still in this building. I pull out my phone and start showing her everything. The spy app permission screen, the screenshots of Mom's monitoring dashboard, the photos of my shaved head with timestamps. Paisley leans forward and takes notes on a yellow legal pad, her pen moving fast across the paper. Her expression shifts from concern to something harder, like she's finally seeing past whatever story Mom fed the school. She asks me specific questions about when the app was installed and whether I can uninstall it myself, and I explain about the device administrator privileges that lock me out of removing it. She writes down the app name and circles it twice. When my phone buzzes with Mom's reply to one of my automated texts, Paisley watches the notification pop up and her jaw tightens. She tells me she's documenting all of this and will be sharing it with her supervisor and CPS. I feel something like hope mixed with terror because I know Mom will lose it when she finds out I talked to someone. After school, I'm walking toward the bus when Mom's car pulls up at the curb. She leans over and opens the passenger door, telling me to get in because we have an appointment. I climb in and ask where we're going, but she just stares straight ahead and drives. 20 minutes later, we're at a medical office I've never seen before. some family practice in a strip mall 2 towns over. The waiting room is empty and the receptionist looks surprised to see us. Like maybe this was a last-minute booking. Mom checks us in and we sit in uncomfortable chairs under fluorescent lights that buzz. When they call my name, Mom follows me back to the exam room and starts talking to the doctor before he even finishes introducing himself. She tells him I've been cutting myself and acting out for attention, that I shaved my own head and have been lying about everything. The doctor looks uncomfortable and glances at me, then back at Mom. He asks her to wait outside while he does the exam, but she refuses, saying she needs to be present to make sure I tell the truth. He doesn't push back and I realize he's probably used to dealing with controlling parents. He does a basic physical exam, checking my arms and legs for cuts or scars, looking at my scalp under the bright light. I stay quiet the entire time because I don't know if speaking up will make things worse, if he'll believe me or if he's already decided Mom's version is correct. The doctor sits down on his rolling stool and types notes into his computer. He tells Mom he doesn't see any evidence of self-harm, no cuts or scars or signs of deliberate injury. Mom starts to argue, but he holds up a hand and says he's noting family stress in my file as a contributing factor to my current state. It's not the vindication I wanted, not him calling Mom out or asking hard questions about the shaved head, but it's not the disaster I feared either, not him giving her an official diagnosis she can use as ammunition. I take the neutral language as a small win, because at least he didn't hand her proof that I'm crazy or dangerous to myself. On the drive home, Mom is silent and I can see her hands gripping the steering wheel too tight, knuckles white. She's mad that the doctor didn't give her what she wanted. That night I try to sleep but my body won't relax. Around midnight, Mom's voice crackles through the intercom speaker she installed in my room, sharp and sudden in the darkness. She demands I respond and prove I'm not hiding something. I mumble that I'm here and trying to sleep. An hour later, her voice cuts through again, asking what I'm thinking about. I say nothing and she tells me that's not an answer. This pattern continues all night, her voice checking on me every hour or two, never letting me fall into deep sleep. By morning, I'm shaky and unfocused, my thoughts moving through mud. I learn to sleep in short bursts of 30 or 40 minutes, staying alert enough to answer when the speaker crackles to life. My body feels heavy and my eyes burn, but I force myself to get ready for school, because at least there I have a few hours away from her constant monitoring. During third period on day 13, I'm sitting at my desk trying to focus on the teacher's lecture when everything goes sideways. The room tilts and my vision narrows to a tunnel. I feel my body sliding out of the chair and then I'm on the floor with people crowding around me. Someone helps me up and walks me to the nurse's office where the nurse takes one look at me and pulls out her phone. She starts taking photos of my shaved head, the dark circles under my eyes that look like bruises, my shaking hands. She asks when I last slept through the night and I can't remember. She files another mandated report while I sit on the vinyl bench drinking orange juice from a small carton, too exhausted to feel embarrassed about collapsing in class. The cold juice helps a little and the nurse lets me rest for the remainder of the period before sending me back to class. That same afternoon, I'm home for maybe an hour when there's a knock on the door. Mom opens it and I see a woman in business casual holding a tablet and a leather folder. She introduces herself as Arya Kruger from CPS and says she's here for a home visit. Mom's carefully constructed calm cracks for just a second, her smile too tight and her voice too high as she invites Arya inside. I watch from the hallway as Arya's eyes move around the living room, taking in the missing doors and the monitors on Mom's desk, showing live camera feeds from every room. Mom tries to explain it away as a security system, but Arya's expression hardens as she walks through the house, noting the bathroom camera and the empty door frames. She asks to speak with me privately, and Mom starts to protest, but Arya cuts her off with professional firmness, saying it's standard procedure. We go outside to Arya's car and she asks me direct questions about the cameras and the doors and whether I feel safe. I tell her everything as clearly as I can, trying not to cry because I need her to take me seriously. She takes notes and tells me she'll be following up within 48 hours. That evening my phone buzzes with a text from Dad. He says he heard from someone at the school that things are bad and offers to let me stay with him. I stare at the message and think about all my research on his case, the Telegram investigation that's still ongoing. Getting caught between both parents feels more dangerous than staying focused on my own escape plan. I don't respond and delete the message, hoping Mom won't notice it came through. But she does. She must have been watching the spy app dashboard because 20 minutes later she storms into my room demanding to know why Dad is texting me. I try to explain that I didn't ask him to reach out, but she's not listening. She takes all my charging cables from my desk and my laptop from my backpack, leaving me with just my phone at 15% battery. Her paranoia has reached a fever pitch and she's muttering about everyone conspiring against her, about secrets and betrayal. She paces the hallway outside my room for hours, her footsteps back and forth like a metronome. I wait until after midnight when her pacing finally stops, and I hear her breathing even out in sleep. I pull the hidden phone from the heating vent and turn it on, holding it close to my face in the darkness. I record a video explaining everything from the beginning, the spy app and the door removal and the shaving and the intercom checks. My voice shakes, but I keep going, making sure to include dates and specific details. When I'm done, I hide the phone back in the vent and try to sleep. The next morning, I wake up early and get to the school before first period starts. I go straight to the library and plug the hidden phone into a charging station, my hands shaking the entire time as I upload the video to the cloud account Jess set up. The upload bar moves painfully slow, and I keep watching the door expecting Mom to somehow appear. But it finishes, and I disconnect the phone and hide it back in my backpack, just as the first bell rings. During lunch, Paisley pulls me into her office and closes the door. She tells me she's been coordinating with her supervisor Sharon and they've worked out a safety plan. If I use the word lighthouse to any staff member, they'll immediately call for help and keep Mom away from me until authorities arrive. She explains that they're building a file with all the reports and documentation, and that CPS is being pushed to take faster action. She looks me in the eye and says they won't let this continue much longer. I nod and memorize the code word, feeling like I finally have a weapon I can use if things get worse. I walk back to class feeling like I'm carrying something dangerous and useful at the same time. This one word that could change everything if I need it. The afternoon drags by and I keep checking my phone out of habit, sending Mom my usual updates about moving between classrooms and sitting at my desk. When I get home around 3:30, I hear her voice coming from the kitchen, higher and tighter than normal, and I pause in the doorway to listen. She's on the phone with someone and I catch fragments of her responses. Lots of yes, and I understand and will be there. But her hand is shaking as she writes something down on a notepad. When she hangs up, she just stands there staring at the wall, not moving, not blinking, and I count the seconds in my head. 1 minute passes, then 5, then 10 full minutes of her frozen in place like a statue. I recognize that look from the night she found out about Dad. This blank expression that means her brain is working too hard to control her face. I back away quietly and go to my room, texting her that I'm home and starting homework, and she doesn't respond for almost 20 minutes, which never happens. That night I try to sleep, but I'm too wired, too aware of her breathing pattern in the hallway outside my doorless room. Around 2 in the morning, I hear her footsteps coming closer, and I keep my eyes closed, pretending to be asleep even though my heart is racing. The footsteps stop right next to my bed and I feel her standing over me. Then I hear the familiar buzzing sound of the electric clippers turning on. My eyes snap open and she's already reaching for my face. Her expression completely blank and I try to twist away, but she grabs my head with her other hand. The clippers are cold against my skin and I'm thrashing, but she's stronger than I expected, holding me down while she runs the blade across where my eyebrows used to be. I feel the metal nick my skin and warm blood starts trickling down my forehead, mixing with tears I didn't know I was crying. She does the other eyebrow while I'm still fighting, creating more small cuts that burn and bleed, and the whole time she's humming this tune I don't recognize. When she's done, she steps back and looks at me like she's examining her work. Then she just walks out without saying anything. I lie there shaking for a few minutes, touching my face and feeling nothing but smooth skin and sticky blood. Then I remember the hidden phone and I move fast, pulling it from the heating vent and turning on the camera. I hold it up close to my face, making sure the bleeding cuts are visible, making sure the timestamp shows it's 2:30 in the morning. My expression in the camera is blank, just empty shock, and I stare at myself for a solid 10 seconds before setting it down. I prop the phone on my desk angled directly at the doorway, making sure the red recording light is hidden in the shadows behind some books. Then I get back in bed and wait, because I know she'll come back to check on me. She always comes back. An hour passes and I hear her footsteps again, slower this time, and she appears in the doorway. She stands there talking, but not to me, just talking to the air about how there are no more secrets now, how she can see everything, how the cameras watch and the phone tracks and the doors are gone. She lists all the ways she monitors me like she's reading from a checklist, explaining her reasoning in this flat voice that sounds almost reasonable if you don't think about what she's actually saying. The hidden phone is recording every single word and I stay perfectly still, barely breathing, watching that tiny red light in the corner of my vision. She talks for almost 15 minutes about Dad and betrayal, and how silence means hiding things, and then she just stops mid-sentence and walks away. I wait another 10 minutes before I move, making sure she's really gone this time. The next morning, I'm up before my alarm, moving quietly through the house while Mom is still asleep in the hallway. I grab the hidden phone and my backpack and leave early, texting Mom that I'm going to study at the school before classes start. The library is empty when I get there, and I plug the phone into a charging station with shaking hands, waiting for it to power up enough to access the files. The upload to the cloud account takes forever. The progress bar moving so slowly, I keep checking the door expecting Mom to somehow appear. But it finishes, and I immediately send Paisley an email with the login information and a short message that just says, "You need to see this." My phone battery is down to 8%, and I'm running on pure adrenaline, but I know I'm close now. During second period, a student aide comes to get me, and I follow her to Paisley's office, my stomach tight with nerves. Paisley closes the door and tells me she's shared everything with both CPS and the police, that they're coordinating a response for tomorrow, that they have a plan. She looks me straight in the eye and promises they won't let Mom take me home again, and I want to believe her so badly, but I've learned not to trust promises from adults. I just nod and ask what I should do today, and she tells me to act normal and keep my phone charged. That afternoon when I get home, Mom is in my room, everything pulled out of my drawers and closet, clothes and books scattered everywhere. She's waiting by the door when I walk in and immediately starts demanding to know who I've been talking to, what I've been saying, who's turning me against her. I pull out my phone and start flooding her with texts about my walk home, describing every street corner and stop sign. listing the colors of cars I passed. The meaningless details distract her enough that she stops interrogating me, and I keep it up all evening, texting her about homework and dinner and brushing my teeth. After she finally goes to her spot in the hallway, I spend an hour programming my phone to send automated updates every 10 minutes for the entire next day. If everything goes according to plan, I won't have access to my phone by tomorrow afternoon, and I need her to think everything is routine as long as possible. The automated messages are all boring stuff like working on math homework and eating lunch and walking to next class. Nothing that would make her suspicious. On day 16, I wake up and my phone starts sending its scheduled updates automatically, and I go to the school trying to act normal even though I feel like I'm about to jump out of my skin. Third period is English, and I'm halfway through when there's a knock on the door and Mom walks in. She goes straight to the teacher and I hear her saying something about withdrawing me, about homeschool, about needing to protect me from bad influences. The front office staff follow her in looking uncertain, and I see them glancing at each other like they're not sure what to do. That's when I stand up and say the word lighthouse, loud enough for everyone to hear. The secretary's eyes go wide and she immediately pulls out her phone, and suddenly everyone is moving and making phone calls, and the teacher is asking Mom to please wait in the hallway. Within 15 minutes, there are police officers in the hallway outside the classroom, and I can see Arya from CPS walking into the principal's office. Mom is being led down there too, and her voice is getting louder, more desperate, trying to explain that she's just being a good parent. Through the small window in the classroom door, I watch them show her printouts, pointing at images that I know are from the camera footage and my hidden recordings. She tries to explain it away as protective parenting, but her voice is getting wild now, almost screaming about how she needs to know everything because of what Dad did. The school nurse appears next to me and puts a hand on my shoulder, guiding me out of the classroom, and I watch from behind her as my mother completely falls apart in front of everyone. Detective Holden Swift steps forward and his voice is calm but firm when he tells Mom she needs to come with him for a psychiatric evaluation. She starts screaming immediately about how I'm lying and manipulative just like my father, her voice getting higher and wilder as two officers move to escort her toward the exit. Arya appears next to me and puts a hand on my shoulder, telling me I'm going to a safe place for assessment, and I feel nothing but this strange, hollow relief as I watch Mom disappear into a police car through the front windows. The whole thing happens fast. Maybe 10 minutes from the moment I said lighthouse to watching the police car pull away, and my legs feel shaky but I'm still standing. Arya guides me to her car and we drive to an assessment center across town, neither of us talking much during the 20-minute ride. Inside the building, a nurse with kind eyes examines my shaved head and missing eyebrows, taking photographs from multiple angles and writing detailed notes about every cut and scrape. She measures the healing wounds with a small ruler and asks me to rate my pain level, documenting everything on official forms that she keeps adding pages to. After the physical exam, I spend 2 hours in a small room with a forensic interviewer named Christopher Osborne, who records everything on a camera mounted in the corner. I tell him the whole story in chronological order, starting with the spy app and ending with this morning, and my voice stays steady even when I describe the worst parts like waking up bald or the clippers at my throat. Christopher doesn't interrupt much, just asks clarifying questions about dates and times, and he never looks shocked or disgusted, which somehow makes it easier to keep talking. When we finish, Detective Swift comes in and explains that they've seized Mom's laptop and my phone with the spy app, and the digital forensics team will need several weeks to build a complete case. He's gentle but honest about how long legal processes take, telling me not to expect quick results, and I appreciate that he's not making promises about quick justice or easy solutions. He gives me a card with his direct number and tells me to call if I remember anything else, or if I need anything. Arya drives me to a foster home that evening where Trinity Yamamoto meets us at the door, a woman in her 40s with short gray hair and a calm presence. Trinity shows me around her small house, pointing out the kitchen and bathroom and then my room, a spare bedroom with an actual door that locks from the inside. She tells me I can stay enrolled at my same school, and that she'll drive me there tomorrow if I want to go, and I just nod because I'm too exhausted to process that I might actually be safe now. The room has a twin bed with a blue comforter and a desk by the window, more space than I've had to myself in weeks. I sit on the edge of the bed after Trinity leaves and just stare at the door with its working lock, testing it 3 times to make sure it actually latches. That night, I sleep for 11 hours straight, the first real sleep I've had since Mom started her surveillance spiral. The next morning, Trinity drives me to Target, and I buy 2 beanies to cover my head, one black and one gray, and she doesn't ask questions about why I need them. When we get back to her house, I take my first shower there and stand under the water for 20 minutes just because I can. There are no cameras, no timers, no one listening outside the door, and the bathroom has a lock that actually works. I cry for the first time since this whole thing started, letting the water wash away weeks of fear and exhaustion, and Trinity doesn't comment on my red eyes when I finally come out. On day 18, Arya calls to tell me that Dad is not approved as a placement because of the ongoing investigation into his messages with minors. She says I can have supervised phone calls with him if I want, but I decline immediately, telling her I need to focus on my own recovery without getting pulled into his mess. Arya sounds relieved when I say this, like she was hoping I'd make that choice, and she promises to keep me updated on the case against Mom. Day 19 brings a family team meeting at the CPS office with Arya, Trinity, Paisley, and Sharon Henderson, all sitting around a conference table. They ask me what I need, and I tell them I just want to keep going to the school and not have to see mom, and everyone nods and writes that down in their various notebooks. Sharon explains the court process and timeline, using words like temporary custody and permanency hearing that I don't fully understand, but I nod anyway. Paisley catches my eye across the table and gives me a small, encouraging smile. The first time I've seen her look anything other than worried. Back at the school, my teachers give me extensions on all my missing work, and don't ask questions about why I was absent for 3 days, or why I'm wearing a beanie in class. Miss Larkin quietly tells me she's proud of me for speaking up after English class, and I manage to smile at her even though I still feel numb most of the time. The other students stare less than I expected, or maybe I'm just too tired to notice their looks anymore. Detective Swift calls Trinity's house on day 20 with an update, asking to speak to me directly. He explains that the spy app logs, camera footage, and my recorded testimony all match up perfectly, creating what he calls a strong evidentiary foundation. He says the DA is building a case for unlawful surveillance and child endangerment, and hearing official legal terms applied to what happened makes it feel more real somehow. It's not just my word against mom's anymore, but documented proof that she crossed lines that shouldn't be crossed. Arya sets me up with a therapist named Naomi Dubois, who specializes in family trauma, and in our first session she teaches me grounding techniques for when I start to panic. She shows me how to focus on 5 things I can see, 4 things I can touch, 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, and 1 thing I can taste. I practice the breathing exercises she demonstrates, counting to 4 on the inhale and 6 on the exhale, and they actually help, which surprises me because I didn't think anything could make the anxiety better. Naomi doesn't push me to talk about everything right away, instead focusing on giving me tools to manage the panic attacks that hit me randomly throughout the day. On day 22, the house phone rings while Trinity and I are making lunch, and she glances at the caller ID before looking at me with a question in her eyes. I nod because I know it's mom, and avoiding her forever isn't realistic, and Trinity puts it on speaker while texting Arya that the call is happening. Mom's voice comes through shaky and high-pitched, asking if I'm there and saying she just wants to talk for a minute. Trinity tells her I'm listening, and Mom immediately starts crying, saying she misses me and the house is so empty without me, and she's been going to her appointments like they told her to. Then her voice shifts and gets harder, demanding to know why I told all those lies to the social workers and the police. She says I'm making her look crazy on purpose, that I'm trying to destroy her life just like Dad destroyed the family, and I can hear the edge of panic underneath the anger. Trinity catches my eye and I shake my head, so she tells Mom that I need to go now and we'll talk another time when she's calmer. Mom starts yelling that I can't just abandon her, but Trinity ends the call and the kitchen goes quiet except for the sound of my own breathing. 4 weeks after they removed me from the house, Arya calls to say there's a court hearing scheduled, and I need to come to the courthouse downtown. I sit in a waiting room with Trinity while lawyers in suits walk past carrying folders, and when they finally call my name, I follow Arya into a courtroom where Judge Damon Cross sits behind a big wooden desk. He reads from papers in front of him about the evidence collected and the psychiatric evaluation Mom underwent, and then he says he's issuing a temporary restraining order that requires Mom to stay 500 feet away from me and my school. He orders her into a psychiatric treatment program, and says visitation will only be considered after she completes it, and demonstrates stability, and I feel my shoulders drop and relax for the first time in months. The judge also says the court is ordering that I receive a new phone with a new number that Mom won't have access to, and when we get back to Trinity's house, she hands me a box with a brand new phone inside. I just stare at it sitting in my palm. This ordinary piece of technology that feels impossibly significant. No spy app installed, no location tracking, no one monitoring every text I send or every app I open, and I can barely remember what it felt like to have actual privacy. Trinity shows me how to set it up and transfer my contacts except for Mom's number, and I spend 20 minutes just holding it and processing that my messages are actually private now. That weekend, Jess comes over under the foster care visiting rules that Arya explained, and we sit in my room with the door actually closed and just talk about normal things. She tells me about the drama happening with some kids at the school, and asks if I've watched the new season of the show we used to talk about, and I'm so grateful she's not making a big deal about everything that happened. We talk about homework and which teachers are assigning too much reading, and for 2 hours I get to feel like a normal teenager, instead of someone whose life fell apart. After she leaves, I realize how much I needed that ordinary friendship after weeks of everything being dramatic and terrible and focused on trauma. On Monday at the school, Paisley finds me between classes and asks if I want to join a support group she runs for students who've been through hard situations. I tell her I'll think about it, but that afternoon I show up to the meeting room just to see what it's like, and there are 6 other kids sitting in a circle talking about their experiences. Hearing them describe their own situations makes me feel less alone, and less like I'm the only person who's dealt with something this messed up. And when the meeting ends, I tell Paisley I think I'll keep coming back. Detective Swift comes by Trinity's house during week 5 to give me an update on the case, and he sits at the kitchen table explaining that legal processes move really slowly. He says Mom will likely get something called a treatment diversion instead of jail time, which means she'll have to complete therapy and stay away from me, but probably won't go to prison. Yeah. I can tell he's watching my face to see if I'm disappointed, and he's honest that it's not the dramatic justice I might have imagined from TV shows. But he emphasizes that the restraining order and required treatment are real consequences that will actually keep me safe, and that's what matters most right now. Trinity tells me later that week that I can stay with her as long as I need to, that there's no pressure to figure out permanent placement right away. We spend Saturday afternoon painting my room a color I chose myself from the hardware store, this light blue that makes the space feel calm and open. We hang up posters I picked out and arrange my books on the shelf, and it's the first space I've been allowed to personalize in months, without someone monitoring and controlling every choice. Putting up decorations and arranging furniture feels like claiming ownership of my own life again, making decisions just because I want to without worrying about cameras or consequences. 6 weeks after everything fell apart, I lie in bed in my room with the door closed and locked from the inside, and I realize I haven't checked my phone compulsively in hours. My hair is growing back as short fuzzy stubble that I can feel when I run my hand over my head, and I don't flinch every time I get a notification anymore. I can sleep through the night without seeing red camera lights blinking in my dreams, or hearing mom's breathing outside my door, and I haven't had a panic attack in almost a week. I'm not completely okay yet, and I know recovery is going to take a long time, but I'm safer than I've been in months, and that's enough for right now. Well, that's the big ending to a very medium story. If you're still watching, I both admire and fear your commitment. You might as well subscribe now because apparently you're in this with me. See you at the next mistake.